Welcome to the Rural Revival Podcast. I'm your host, Dana Larson. This week we're in Cimarron, New Mexico with entrepreneurs Colin and Erin Tawney. And what happened to be a fortuitous stop on our road trip to California earlier this year. We actually pulled into town just as the Super Bowl was ending and stopped by the only place that happened to be open. And as we got to talking to the owners, we realized we really needed them to share their story on the podcast. So I grabbed my recording equipment and we did this completely on the fly. Colin and Erin are sharing what led them to bringing a bed and breakfast, brewery, and bike race to their historic town, plus all they're doing to help bring economic development and positive change to the community. So here we go with Colin and Erin. Well, we're here tonight in Cimarron, New Mexico with Colin and Erin Tawney, who I'm going to just call you entrepreneurs for now because I really want you to explain all the fun things that you're involved in here in Cimarron. But welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Well, let's have you guys start out. You haven't always lived in Cimarron, so tell us a little bit about your journey that led you to coming here.
Well, Erin and I have been looking for properties in the high country for a really long time. We were looking in southern Colorado. Eventually that search kind of came to northern New Mexico. And we were looking in the Enchanted Circle area, which is Angel Fire, Red River, Taos, Eagle Nest. And Cimarron kept coming up in the searches on Realtor.com, Zillow, and there was one particular property that looked really promising. It had been a bed and breakfast. It hadn't been run in several years. And I kept watching it online, and we finally had the opportunity to come see it. And we came out, and we fell in love with it after 10 minutes.
The house hugged us. Sometimes you just know when something's right.
Yeah.
And we're talking to the realtor about it and everything, and then we're getting ready to leave that day, and we're sitting out in the parking lot, and I'm looking at Erin. I said, I'm mentally counting every penny that we've got. I said, honey, we can do this. And your response?
I said, don't tease me like that.
That had been her biggest dream for a long time, to have a bed and breakfast. Because after we met, I discovered she was an amazing cook. I said, did you ever think about having a restaurant? She said, no, I'll never have a restaurant, but I'd love to have a B&B. And I'd wanted to move to the mountains since I was 10 years old. And so it was kind of two lifelong dreams that happened to merge. And it just, everything collided at the right time for this to happen. Of course, our original plan when we bought it is we were going to move out at the end of 2018, but the closer we got to closing, we knew we had the property, out here in the middle of nowhere. It was so peaceful. We loved it. And we were traveling somewhere, and I don't remember if I said to her or she said to me, we're not going to make it 2.5 years, are we? And,
nope.
So we started our exit plan from Tulsa, and I was going to retire from the boiler company that I worked for, and they insisted that I not do that because I could work from remote. I mean, I'm on the marketing end of things. So there was so much stuff you can do these days that the internet you couldn't do 20 years ago. And that's really what allowed us to come out here. We had a portable business we brought with us. We deal in antique Harley-Davidson parts. So that was a sure thing that we had. We had Erin's insurance business. And we were kind of diving into the unknown with the B&B, although I knew she was one heck of a cook. And I knew with my marketing background, we could really get the inn out there and build it into something that was pretty neat.
I love it. So how did that evolve once you got out here?
Well, everything just kind of fell into place. I mean, we got the inn repainted, redecorated, and Philmont Scout Ranch has been a huge part in that success because we get about 50-50 customers from them during the summertime.
That's great.
And they're an awesome group to work with, and then we get travelers that find us. We have an indoor pool, which is kind of unusual for a B&B, and we've got people that seek us out for that reason.
I love it. Well, Colin, you had mentioned to me earlier that you had been through Cimarron before and kind of saw maybe some potential in this town, but
We were coming home from a summer trip. We'd been mountain biking up in Taos and Angel Fire, and said, let's take Highway 64 down through the canyon. We'll go that way. And we were going down through the canyon. I'm like, man, this is beautiful. We see the Palisades, which looks like organ pipes springing out of the rocks. And then I see the sign for Philmont Scout Ranch. I'm like, Erin, I know all about Philmont because Wade Phillips was from Tulsa. And so I'm all excited. I'm thinking, we're going to come out into this neat little village. And bless its little heart, at that time, there was like a burned out motel still on the main drag. We didn't have the corner store that was down at the intersection of Highway 58 and 64. It really looked kind of like an unloved, forgotten about village. And I just thought, what an unfortunate little place. So I was a little hesitant because I knew that was the impression it left on us. When I first found this bed and breakfast online, I was a little hesitant to even mention to Erin that it was in Cimarron. But I thought, every place deserves a second look. And it just, we saw it with entirely different eyes when we came back to see the place. All of a sudden we thought, man, this place is full of potential. And it wouldn't take that much to spruce things up. And then we started meeting some of the other merchants here, and it was a fantastic community of merchants. And we said, no fear on doing this. This is, we can give back. We can help work to kind of try and improve the community, bring some fresh ideas. That's not always welcome when you get into a small community. And then there are other people who are like, hey, we love the fresh energy because, we've been leading the push for 20 years. Now it's time for somebody else to do this. But I don't know. Am I leaving anything out of that, or?
Well, not that I can think of. Covering it pretty good.
So you eventually found yourself involved with the chamber.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we didn't buy the building here. We leased this. This is a very historic building here. It was built in 1906. This was a hardware store originally, and I think it's been like it was the senior center at one point, and they subdivided it into 3 spaces. And but we would come down here actually I think the first time I noticed it, we were going around the town meeting people, and I saw the space and I saw the restaurant equipment. It all looked new-ish, but it had this great outdoor space. And I said, oh my gosh, this would be the best beer garden. Somebody needs to do this here. Somebody needs to put a brewery in. And Erin's going, oh no, we're not, no. And so we just didn't know we were going to be the ones that ended up putting the brewery in. I already had an interest in brewing because I had sold boilers to microbreweries all around the country, and I had gotten into home brewing about 5 or 6 years ago. And as it turned out, I actually was fairly good at it. And before we knew it, we had this like commercial type brewery in our garage back in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And our friends loved to come over and have barbecue with us, drink our beer. And it had been rattling around in the back of my head. And maybe next lifetime I can do a brewery, and I'll finally have time to do that because I'm intrigued with it. I'm a really process-oriented person. And about this time last year, well, actually it was Thanksgiving of 2017, some friends were over at the house, and we just got to talking about the possibilities. Man, the space down here, and it would be, so good for it. But it was actually Erin's fault. She was the one that ran into the handyman that took care of the building, and she's like, well, can I see the space? So you can run with it from there.
Yeah, so I came in and looked around, and I thought, well, it's kind of cute. Maybe we could make this work. And I mean, I have my dream. Who am I to stand in the way of his? And another part of this that he's leaving out is, we were trying to figure out, okay, so people come around that turn on 64 and they see the mountains, and it's pedal to the metal. Even though they're an hour away from the nearest destination, they just completely blow off Cimarron. Well, how do we get them to stop? Well, what's the 2 surefire ways to get Oklahomans and Texans, which are the most of the tags that come through here, to get them to stop is beer and barbecue.
There you go.
Which is his forte. So.
And that kind of went back to becoming the marketing director for the chamber. Obviously trying to figure out how do you promote your village, how do you get people to stop, how do you generate sales tax dollars. I just didn't realize I was going to be doing it on a real live scale. I thought I was going to push somebody else to do this.
Well, here you found yourself kind of in a role of catering to tourists coming through. So what has been your favorite part of that, getting to meet all sorts of different people and show them your town?
Oh, man. We completely didn't take into account, especially with the bed and breakfast. I mean, you get to talk to people here at the brewery and chat with them and find out where they're from and what makes them tick. But in the bed and breakfast business, it's more of a personal experience. And when we sit down and break bread with our guests every morning, in an hour, you learn so much about people, and it's just incredible how small the world is and how intertwined we all are. And I didn't expect the empty nest syndrome when my guests leave. But, you know, you people stay with you for a few days, you get to know them, you guys end up friends, and then they leave. You're like, wait a minute. Why is the house so quiet?
Yeah, oh, that's so sweet.
Why do I feel lonesome? What happened? We had one guy from the FAA last year. He was supposed to be here for a week and a half doing this project. So we learned early on, we started saying, guests check in, friends check out. And this guy, Elliot Cole, he stayed with us for 3 weeks, as it turned out. Elliot achieved family status. We're still in touch with him on about a weekly basis, you know, keeping up with each other and everything. And so, you know, there's some people we've really had a great chance to connect with. And, you know, I was telling you guys earlier, every now and then somebody will show up here just out of the blue. They didn't even know we'd moved here. It's like somebody from Tulsa from our cycling community. And they're like, what are you doing here? We had a couple came through from Amarillo a couple weeks ago. And they had some connections to Tulsa. Then it turned out they knew a bunch of cyclists, because the husband was a cyclist. So we knew a lot of common people that had done our bike race here last year. So it's funny because we actually like kind of pre-know some people that come through. It's really interesting. And I have a gift for words and people. I know I'm
He's so shy. We really need to work on that.
But it's really cool serving people where I'm in my element is when I'm out front here chatting with people. I mean, I love all phases of this business, but that's where I feel, you know, my gift is being able to work the room. And if I see somebody that, you know, maybe they're having a rough day, they're not smiling or whatever, I make it a point, go over, chat with them. And, you know, by the time they're done, they're like, thank you, I had a really great time. And, you know, it's given us a great opportunity to, well, I mean, people have blessed us by, you know, staying with us or coming in here, and I think it's vice versa. You know, we've actually had some really incredibly timed visits from people that were needed, you know, just for personal stuff, you know, that we have coming up or whatever, you know, that we've just had an opportunity to kind of learn from people and, you know, share things about, you know, personal health, nutrition, essential oils, things like that, you know, it's just, most people don't get that opportunity like we do. We're incredibly fortunate.
And we keep trying to pay it forward, and it just keeps coming.
It does.
I love that. Well, what would you say have been some of the key things that have helped turn Cimarron around as far as, you know, just revitalizing things around here since you have moved into the area?
I'm not sure if we had much to do with it, but there's been some improvements here and there. They've taken down the burnt-out hotel. There was a building that was falling down here on 9th Street. They took that out. And just doing those little bits here and there kind of spurs everybody else to do the same thing.
Sure, yeah.
And it's a slow process. You know, it didn't get this way overnight. But every little bit helps, and it just keeps that spirit going. It keeps moving and improving. Didn't mean to rhyme that.
Well, and coincidentally, we actually had an opportunity, what's it been, maybe about a year ago, to apply for a community grant, Main Street program. And this is under the Frontier Cities part of it. The state didn't really have funds to actually put any of the brick and mortar in place, but what they were willing to do was give us the consultants to come in, because we had a project, Santa Fe Trail project, that was partially completed in 2011. And so by getting the grant, they sent us help on branding. We also have a landscape architect that's working with us. So we're looking at ways to improve our main drag through here, because this is a little unusual. When you look at small town America, like say Chandler, Oklahoma, or Bristow, or Pawhuska, or whatever, the original downtowns, they're very close right along the roadway. Well, Highway 64, as it comes through Cimarron, that was a rail bed. So there was a railroad that went up to Ute Park. The original idea was for it to go all the way over to Taos. That never happened. So we don't have the closed-in main drag. This feels like, you know, we've got a 300-foot frontage, I think, on either side. So it's not that closed-in, slow-you-down type of Main Street. So it's really been several different ideas on the program. Was you know, how do we calm traffic, get them to slow down, because it looks more like a wide, let's just blow through here type of road. What do we do to beautify it? And so that'll be a part of, we have to look at what we can do, hardscaping, greenscaping, because we do have real water issues here. So we kind of have to be careful about what we choose for that. We're looking at, can we put a public restroom in, so that gives people another reason to stop, stretch their legs, etc. And we've got some other attractions that'll be opening back up. Our grocery store closed for a while. It'll be reopening in the spring, be freshened up. So, those are the kind of things that just coincidentally started coming along that weren't necessarily anything that we pushed. But obviously when they said, well, there's going to be a community group to get involved in this, we're like, absolutely, we'll jump in. Because two of the first things we did, and part of it was wanting to market the inn, but the other part is just wanting to be involved in the community. We were very community oriented back in Tulsa, but when you live in a metro area of 1 million people, your efforts are a little bit diluted. But you get someplace like here, and there's far fewer layers to go through. And I think it helps inspire some other people, and certainly people have inspired us that live around here. But the first two things that we wanted to get involved with, we got involved with the Cimarron Civic Club, which used to be Kiwanis. But, talking about the getting back to the rural areas, they actually gave up their Kiwanis charter a few years ago. They realized they were sending more money outside the village. And, here, this was starting to we're not a wealthy village. So they thought, well, we need money here to provide scholarships, to do other projects around the village. So, we got involved with that, and I got involved with the chamber, and it just, it made really good sense business-wise, but really more than anything, just wanting to see where we fit, where can we help, what can we do to help brighten it up and make it a little bit better place. That was one of the things I learned a long time ago. Is a true measure of success is leaving this world just a little bit better than it was when he found it.
And one of the unique things that Cimarron has too is this is a very historic town. As I understand it, it's along the Santa Fe Trail, right?
That is correct. Yeah, this was a waypoint along there. Lucian Maxwell was really kind of the founder of the village, but there were people like Kit Carson before he settled over in Taos. He had a settlement down by Rayado. This goes back, 1821 or so, I think was roughly when it was more or less founded. And what is it? Cimarron means untamed, I believe, in Spanish. And it was a pretty rough and tumble kind of place. It was known for the outlaws. We've got the St. James Hotel here, has been here since 1876. And there's ghost sightings and things like that. It's actually a very popular place as a tourist attraction for people that follow the paranormal to come in. But yeah, it's got one heck of a history behind it. A lot of big ranches, prominent ranch families around here, and then really our current industry here. The big employer and the big economic driver is Philmont Boy Scout Ranch, which is their biggest high adventure camp. I think they have 3 or 4 in scouting, but this is the one that was always the preeminent one. And the cool thing is that the land was donated by Wade Phillips, who was a Tulsa oil man. And the joke has been since we moved here, we're stalking his ghost because we had a couple of homes in Tulsa that were 4 miles from Philbrook Museum of Art, which was Wade and Genevieve's home in Tulsa. And then this was their summer place. We lived 4 miles from it. So it's a little stalkerish,
I love it. Those aren't bad shoes to step into if you have to, right?
That's true.
Well, you guys made a big shift when you moved here because you were used to living in the city and all of a sudden you're living in a small town. It's about 800 people, right?
Yeah.
So
exactly.
What has that been like for you and what do you love about living here?
Man, just look around.
Yeah.
You guys came in at night, but it's beautiful. We're at the base of the mountains. It is a bit of a transition coming in from the city, but it just means you have to plan better. The drive, whether I go to Angel Fire to the grocery store or Raton, it's beautiful either way. Takes the same amount of time, but you plan ahead. If you're going to go to one of the bigger places like either Pueblo or Santa Fe, where there's more stores that we're used to, you just start a list. Okay, I got to go to Lowe's and do this. I got to go to Natural Grocery and do that. I got to, you have to plan ahead. And being in the B&B business is a little tricky when you make breakfast every morning from scratch.
That's true, yeah.
So planning definitely takes precedence, but it's not that difficult, and I wouldn't trade it. We don't even have a stoplight in this town.
Yeah.
If you left our house in Tulsa, you'd have to go through 6 of them in a mile. You know, it's so quiet. The people are wonderful. My soul isn't home here. I can't find the words to quite explain how that is, but yeah, this is a great place.
Yeah, that's when we lived in Tulsa. We had 2 grocery stores that were within walking distance. We had a Lowe's that was within walking distance. We had all these conveniences, and you don't realize how much you take it for granted. But, you know,
Amazon Prime is wonderful.
Yes.
absolutely. Yeah, we're creatures of Amazon now. Yeah, mail order is a big deal to us to be able to get stuff in here. But, you know, it's just you learn to adapt, and that is what is so cool, though, about the last 20, 25 years with the internet and online commerce is it allows people like us to be able to leave those conveniences, to be able to take the risks and go where your heart soars and do what really speaks to you and do what's really important. You know, my big thing was, and I told Erin from the time we first met, I didn't want to be one of those people that couldn't retire until they were 70. And then by the time you get to where you want to go, your body's worn out, you can't do it. And, you know, I mean, Erin's mid-40s, I'm early 50s, and to be able to move when we did, I think was pretty extraordinary. And we're very fortunate we had portable income that we could do that. So it made it a little bit less of a financial risk to take it on because, you know, a 4-bedroom bed and breakfast, you're not going to get wealthy on it. It's pretty much going to allow you to live for free, but you still have to make up for the rest of it. So, you know, that's what I look at so many people, though, that say, man, I wish I would have done this, wish I would have done that. But we're out here saying we're doing it. And that's the cool thing about, you know, where we're sitting right now is, you know, we were just willing to take the risk and go and, you know, found a place that really spoke to us.
I love it. Well, what advice would you have for someone who's thinking about doing something similar to what you did? Because it is a risk, but you're obviously talking about the amazing rewards that come with that too.
What are you looking at me for?
Don't wait, because so many people wait for the right opportunity. I grew up with kind of a short-timer mentality. My dad passed when he was 41. My brother passed when he was 37 from an accident. But, you know, that makes you realize it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. And, you know, don't wait around because life's uncertain. You know, health things pop up or whatever. Or, you know, either that or you get too busy doing one thing or the other and you keep saying one day, one day, one day. But my advice is find that place that makes your spirit soar because you're going to be a lot happier and a lot healthier for doing that. I remember Erin, you know, the last 6 months we were in Tulsa after we'd closed on the B&B, every day she said, just be safe going to work and back. We're so close. We're so close. You know, and she was so happy to get me out of the stress of commuting back and forth. And we found out right before we moved here, I had a little bit of a health problem. And, you know, it was, do you still want to move out there? Absolutely. I wouldn't change my mind on that. And he had a little bit of recurrence of this last week. Do you want to go back to Oklahoma? No. I said, we're staying right here. You know, we're going to maybe not work quite as hard. I need to step back a little bit because I have pushed myself pretty hard. And we both have. I don't want to take all the credit on that. But, I mean, you know, we work hard, but, I mean, a day that runs from 6 a.m. till 10 p.m., if you're really doing what you love, you played all day. You know? I mean, we're doing exactly what we want to do. And there's a lot to be said for that. And just getting away from the stress of a big city, it's amazing how much commuting wears on people, or crowded stores, or
Traffic noise.
Yeah.
The first time I went back to Tulsa after being out here a couple of months, we stepped out of the vehicle and I was like, what is that noise? It was just this dull roar. And it's traffic. I was like, man, I didn't even notice that before. But you don't have that out here.
Mm-hmm.
It's so quiet. The stars are beautiful. There's no pollution. No tornadoes either.
Well,
That's a good thing.
Not often.
At least not often.
Yeah, there was one through here about, 23 years ago, I think.
Yeah, but not as
Freak
often
deal.
as in Oklahoma.
No.
But no, he's right. You know, if you've got something, friend of ours told us recently that if there's something out there, there's a dream, there's something you want, something you really, really want to do, your spirit is already there. And it's the conflict between your spirit and your body where you are that creates the stress and the issues and the problems and all of that. So follow your spirit. Figure out where it's at, because the risk is totally worth it.
And quit thinking of the excuses of why you can't.
Why you can.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of goes back to, when I used to race cars. Winners find reasons, losers find excuses, and that's the whole thing. It's just quit thinking of every reason why you can't do something. Figure out how you can make it happen. Whether it's, some people that they think, oh, it's a bad idea, raid your 401k, but you know what? If your idea of retirement was moving to a rural area and doing something like we did, there's your retirement. That's well worth doing that.
Yeah, I think it's great to think outside the box and not give up on those things that are burning with passion inside of you. And your smiles the entire time that you have been talking tonight are just proof of why it's worth it to take that risk and do it, because I can just tell how happy you are. It's
Absolutely.
Great. Yeah.
Yep.
So right now you have the Blue Dragonfly Brewing Co., which is where we're hanging out doing this interview tonight. We just happened to stop in on Super Bowl Sunday. You also have the Blue Dragonfly Inn, which is your bed and breakfast. And then you have your side businesses too. But what's next for you? Any more projects in the works?
No.
Good Lord, no.
No, that was a little awakening we had this week. I'm gonna step back a little bit and let our employees, because we have great employees here, let them run the brewery, and I'm gonna try and slip more into being just the brewer instead of general manager. Just another one of those awakenings that maybe I'm going a little too hard, and then thinking about, and one of the good things about being where we are, we're only 550 miles from Tulsa, and I've got my mother's there. Erin's parents are in Shawnee, Oklahoma. I have 2 daughters and a grandson, I have 2 daughters and we have a grandson in Tulsa and a son-in-law. And we're only 8.5, 9 hours away, but a week or two back, I was feeling really guilty because I'd gone back in early January for our grandson's birthday. Erin couldn't go. And so I said, we think maybe we can shut everything down for another week before spring break gets here, because that's like our next big tourism bash through here. And then this summer, we're going to be overrun with Philmont. This place is going to be hopping. So
Say that like it's a bad thing.
No, not at all.
It's a great thing.
But it's, I've been realizing it's like, well, we can't get back there for another 6 or 8 months. And I'm thinking, I really need to re-examine, that health and family has to still be the first thing. And that's part of the reason why I moved out here in the first place, was lower the stress level and, try not to work so hard, get out and hike. And I think I lost a little bit of focus on that over the last year because I was so driven. I wanted to get this brewery going so bad. And I was telling you guys earlier, we got this place, we signed the lease February 1st of 2018. We were open August 1st. We had no equipment when we got started than my homebrew equipment. That's incredibly fast to put a brewery together, get through all the licensing and everything. But there again, there's a hook for those of you listening to the podcast that you're thinking, why would I want to go to rural America? Well, for one thing, villages like this, you want to start a business, they're very friendly to it, and they'll make it happen a lot quicker. If we'd tried to open this in a metro like Santa Fe, Albuquerque, Tulsa, Oklahoma City, Kansas City, whatever, you have so many layers of bureaucracy to go through and mechanical codes, and not that they don't have them out here, but a village like this, when somebody says, I'm willing to make the investment here, they say, what can we do to help? And the other thing was too, is I didn't wait around to do like rural grants or USDA grants, anything like that. We just said, you know what, we're gonna risk all the funds ourselves because we believe in this enough that we're willing to do it. And so I want to encourage anybody that's, even on the fence about it. I honestly think that, small towns and villages are probably even a better place to risk putting in a business like this, for the simple fact you're not going to be sitting around for a year and a half, 2 years while you need to be getting cash flow going. So but we are fortunate. I realized there were a lot of very extraordinary circumstances that all came together at one time. It was so meant to be. Just like 2 weeks after we signed the lease, the right brewing equipment became available in Indiana, used equipment from a brewery that was upgrading. And, I jumped, got it, and had it on its way. I'm like, holy cow, we're really going to have a brewery. So, it's just interesting. Everything just clicked. It was so meant to happen. Like everything, it seems like this happened ever since Erin and I met each other 10 years ago.
That's very
meant to be,
cool.
very much.
Yeah. I might not know about, but that you guys might want to share about.
And I think I already said it, I'm such a big advocate for, chase that dream. Don't be afraid to do it. Don't be afraid to move away from the conveniences of a big city, because the world these days is so much different. It's not so scary to do that, and as Erin said, we're creatures of Amazon,
Well, on the internet. I mean,
Yeah.
if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't be able to do half of what we do.
That's true, because our other business, Cimarron Cycle Works, we sell antique Harley-Davidson parts globally, from little Cimarron, New Mexico. There's stuff going to Australia every day, Germany, England, you name it, and we deal with vendors that are overseas, and those are vendors I wouldn't have been able to find without the internet, and it's just kind of carrying on a business that I'd started back in the early 2000s. That was basically just a kind of an income-producing hobby is what started out. I'd bought an old Harley, and I was restoring it and started getting into parts, and about that time was when eBay got really, really popular. But a lot of the guys that were in the bike business back then, they were all terrestrial guys. They didn't know what the heck the internet was. They sure as heck hadn't heard of eBay. And so I had the opportunity to buy a lot of wholesale parts, interestingly, out of this part of the country, and it's kind of started in Tulsa. And then I'd kind of ebb and flow that business over the years. And then when Erin and I got married, I thought, well, hey, here's an opportunity. She can pick that up while she was building her insurance practice in Tulsa. And but that was the business that we said, okay, this is all worth the risk, because it would pretty much cover whatever we needed out here. And so that has continued to grow, right here from little old Cimarron. And I think it's improved the fortunes of the post office. I think next to Philmont Scout Ranch, we're the biggest postal customer here. And I think their allotments actually that comes from how much postage is going through every year. So that's given them a good lift, to say the least. But we definitely have a lot of different responsibilities every day. And Erin's kind of, I'm the idea person. She is organizational operations. She keeps it all held together and keeps my ADHD in check. Most of the time.
Well, and one thing we haven't talked a lot about in detail is your insurance business. So I want to hear about that too, Erin.
Oh, well, yeah, insurance. There's a fascinating subject. Well, like a lot of other professions, the internet has made a world of difference. And there's some old school people out there still like to come into the office and talk to the agents, face to face. But there's a lot that's not that important to them. And it's time saved if they don't have to work around your hours. My home agency is in Norman, Oklahoma. And, I worked in that office for a few years, and then we got together and I moved to Tulsa and kind of worked remotely from there. And then we moved out here, and my agency partner's like, yeah, go for it. Take it with you. So I got all my licensing here in New Mexico. It's a little bit different here. You got, family is extremely important in this culture. And I totally get that, and I'm not going to stand in the way of that. But, so-and-so's cousin, well, they're an insurance agent. We've got all our stuff with them. Yeah, that's cool. I get that. But there's always room for, new people coming in. And I haven't really had much time to work on it lately, but that's okay.
I can't imagine why.
I can't either. But, it all comes in time. Every time I stop and think about it and go, I wonder if I need to do something. I need to get this business going. I need to get some more income on that aspect of things. And then all of a sudden, somebody calls me, hey, I need this. Hey, I need that. So, okay, cool. We can do it.
I love it.
And I do business both in Oklahoma and in New Mexico.
Perfect. Yeah. The power of the internet. Seriously.
That's right.
I mean, it really does make a difference. Well, how do we follow along with everything you guys have going on and all of your businesses?
Well, you can follow us on www.bluedragonflyinn.com and www.bluedragonflybrewing.com. Now, Blue Dragonfly Brewing is BLU Dragonfly. So with the cute little German umlaut on it, only that's not in the URL. Of course, you can follow us on Facebook with those. Cimarron Cycle Works has its own web page, and we do have people that order from that around the world. But eBay is actually that's about 98% of our sales channels on that. But yeah, definitely Facebook pages. We usually keep those pretty well updated as we can. We try to.
Great. And how about the insurance? How do they contact you if they want insurance?
Yeah, I've got a Facebook page too.
Okay.
And multi-state insurance. That's what it's under. Okay. Yeah. But if you look up my name, you'll find the page associated with me. So.
Perfect. Well, we'll be sure to link to all of that in the show notes too, so everybody can have easy access to that. But
and then people, if they want to come out and book and stay at Blue Dragonfly Inn and enjoy our pool and our nice views of the mountains from there and our peace and quiet and just unplug for a few days.
And amazing breakfast.
Cannot forget that. That's the whole reason to stay there. They can find us on Airbnb, also through Expedia and a lot of other travel sites, or they can just call us at 575-425-0005.
Perfect. And I'm sure you guys are more than willing to help them find things to do in the area and make it a great stay for them. So
there's a book in every room that describes all of the attractions, restaurants, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Perfect.
We've got some of the best underutilized wilderness out here. There's an area that's literally starts about a mile or two north of where we're sitting right now called the Valle Vidal, the Valley of Life. And it's, I think altogether, at least if you're driving from one end to the other, it starts here in Cimarron and ends up near Costilla, New Mexico. It's about a 70-mile drive. And it is rolling hills. You drive through part of Ted Turner's ranch, Vermejo Park Ranch. We like to joke that Ted Turner's our next-door neighbor. But, we have these very underutilized areas that I'm a big fan of saying, I want everybody to know about it, and at the same time, I don't want anybody to know about it, because you don't want it to get all drecked up like a lot of areas in Colorado have over the years as the Front Range has grown. We had a friend out, big-time outdoor guy, grew up in Denver. He came out to see us the first summer we were here, and Bob said, he said, I think of the places I used to go hike and go climb when I was a teenager in Denver. He said, I go there now, they're overrun, they're trash, there's vandalism or whatever. And he said, you guys, I hope you appreciate what a gem this is to have something like this. And so actually one thing we thought about, if I can go on just a little bit.
Absolutely.
We were trying to think, what else can we do to help improve tourism here? Because we had a lot of people that kind of think of this being a 3-month village, because Philmont Scout Ranch, by and large, that really did. I mean, that's the big tourism attraction. You get 25,000 scouts through here summer. You probably get another 5,000 or so people coming through every year for different training programs and stuff that Philmont does for scout training. And we said, what can we do? And we'd kind of thought about it even before we got here. Couldn't we do a bike event or something like that? Because I'm a veteran of the Leadville Trail 100 mountain bike race. I did it twice. And I saw what that had done for Leadville, and a really wily old miner named Ken Klober started this series back in 1983. Climax Mine had closed up there. I think Leadville's unemployment, I don't remember now if it was 25% or 50%, but it was ridiculous. And Ken said, what can we do to build the fortunes in this town? What can we do to get people here in the summertime? And so they started out with this 100-mile foot race out and back at over 10,000 feet, which is just insane. And then in 94, they started a mountain bike race. And I had the opportunity to get in through the lottery in 2011. Erin and I, we went and did that. We went back in 2013 again. But what we were impressed with was how much it's changed the fortunes of Leadville. People that got into the race series, they have now done it 20 times or whatever, they built second homes out there because they fell in love with the area. Their main drag through there is gentrified really nice. In 2009 or 2008, Lifetime Fitness out of Minneapolis bought the race series. So they brought with it a lot more marketing and things like that and qualifying races they did around the country. But the long and short of it is we just saw what it had done to improve Leadville, even in the time since we started going in 2011, how much it had even changed up to a year or so back. And we thought, why can't Cimarron do something like that? And so we started the Cimarron Challenge last summer. It came very close to not happening because we did that 25 days after we opened the brewery, and we were still trying to figure out what we're doing here, because neither one of us had ever run a restaurant or a brewery for that matter, and so it was pretty ambitious. I mean, we were very close to pulling the plug, and I told Erin, I said, you know what though, if we do it, they won't give us a chance to do this ever again. And so we got it going. We had 31 riders show up, which seemed a little humbling at first, but when we realized the Dirty Kansas 200, which is in Emporia, Kansas, started 10 years ago with 34 riders. And I think they have about 3,000 riders a year now. Lifetime Fitness just bought that race this year. And so it's really cool because that's been a great tourism deal for Emporia. Stillwater, Oklahoma has the Land Run 100. Bobby and Crystal Wendell started that, I think, with 70 or 80 riders, and now they have to cap the event. It's a lottery system they have to get in. So I think we're headed in that direction because of how remote some of the areas it goes. This is for gravel bikes or mountain bikes, either or. But gravel bike racing has become really big in the last 10 years. And the Via Vidal, we thought, man, this is perfect. We thought, how do we get them back in? Because it'd have to be an out and back, because we have private property out there. Philmont Scout Ranch stepped up, said, you can come across our property. That was huge. Philmont, if it wasn't for them, the race couldn't have happened because they did all our on-field support. They had a bad summer last year, so we had a huge forest fire here, 30,000 acres. Philmont lost their entire summer. We had no scouts here. So they were still doing some training programs and such. So that actually, a lot of people said, you guys doing this event here and Philmont doing it, it gives us optimism that we're not dead. And, it was great because we brought in people and they all loved it. They thought it was great. There were some parts of the course that were a little sketchy, but we warned them at the riders meeting that morning. We said, this is the Cimarron Challenge, not the Cimarron Easy. And even though we had some people that were kind of swearing at us a little bit when they came back in, within a couple of days, they're saying on the Facebook page, man, don't change a thing. I'm coming back next year. I'm bringing my buddies. So this is an event that's going to continue to grow, and that was one that Erin and I and a third person, Jake Cook, we started a nonprofit. We take nothing from it, no administrative fees. The whole idea is to benefit the scholarship fund of the Cimarron Civic Club, to fund beautification projects, hopefully fund part of the Frontier Cities project if that's needed, because the state won't actually fund, as I said earlier, the brick and mortar. But even if it comes down to private fund for, say, individuals who can't afford to spruce up their property or whatever. So we're looking for ways, how could we turn tourism into a way to really improve the overall look, which, of course, that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy in itself because it keeps looking nicer and nicer. People say, this is a great little place. So, it was just one of those off-the-wall ideas by following a great example from a really, really neat cat up in Leadville, Colorado that, I said, this is what kind of, I think, the direction we need to go with this. And I don't know, what else can you add about the Cimarron Challenge?
I think you've pretty much covered it. And now we've got our baseline, so we know what to do this year.
Yeah, no, that's so cool. I love everything about that. And what are the dates this year?
August 24th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. So mark your calendars.
Yep.
And
We've got a 78-mile route, is a long route. We've got a shorter route that's 65 miles. Basically what that does is that cuts out about a 1,500-foot climb that goes up to 9,600 feet. So it's I really admire people that come from the flatland and come do that, because it's really hard to train if you're not at altitude. So that means getting out on hot roads during the summer, but it's a nice respite for the riders because they'll come out here, if it's in the 90s or 100s and humid in Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, they'll come out here, high of 80 degrees, humidity of 20%, much more comfortable environment, just a little less oxygen.
Well, you guys, thank you so much. This has been a great conversation. I love what you're doing. Love the ways that you are giving back to this town. And I can't wait to come back and spend more time here because I love everything that I've seen here. It's been just a fun stop on our trip. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for stopping in. We're really glad our paths crossed.
Well, Colin and Erin are a great example of what it looks like to really seize the opportunities their small town has to offer. And I love that they established a nonprofit and scholarship program as a way to give back. If you're someone like Colin and Erin with dreams for your small business and are ready to put those dreams into action, join us for the Rural Revival Mastermind in Pawhuska, Oklahoma on May 12th through 15th, 2019. We're bringing together a community of rural entrepreneurs ready to drive big results and impact in their business and lives. You can find all the details at ruralrevival.co/mastermind. Well, thanks again to Colin and Erin for being on the podcast, and thanks to you for tuning in. We'll be back next week. Have a great day, everybody.